Welcome to CC Fashion. In this video, you're going to learn how to make this safari overlapping suit or double-breasted safari suit. Whatever the case, you're going to find this interesting, educating, and fun as you learn how to make this outfit. Please stay tuned as we draft this outfit properly, and we're going to make it step by step, and we're going to stitch it thereafter. So kindly subscribe to this channel and turn on your notification bell. Let's move right into the drafting. To start with, I have my pattern paper folded by 6 inches. If you look at it carefully, you have seen the 6 inches. Here are my measurements. We have the full body measurement, so consider taking your measurement before you start drafting. Then if you look at the pattern paper, I folded it by 6 inches. That part that you see folded, I overlap it by 6 inches. I just folded 6 inches. You can fold yours 6.5 or whatsoever, just to make sure that you have what you need. So I have my shoulder line, my chest line, then I have my waistline and my full length, then the hemming allowance. I have omitted the hips line, in which I'm going to do that thereafter. So that is my hemming allowance. From the shoulder to my chest line is 9.5, to my waist is 16, then to the full length is 32. I have my 2 inches hemming allowance to make it 34. Let's move to the shoulder line as we're going to input the shoulder measurement. My shoulder measurement is 16 inches. Half of it is 8 inches. So I'm going to mark 8 inches plus half of an inch for seam allowance. That's 8.5. And I move over to the chest line. I'll still mark the same 8.5 on 2 points so that I will connect the line. After marking it, I have connected it from the shoulder line, that's the start line, to the chest line, forming a box of 8.5. Still on the start line, I mark my neck width, which is 2.5 inches. So that's the marking I put there. Then on my shoulder, I slope it down by 1.75 inches. If you wish, you can make yours 2 inches. It's not bad. So I'm going to connect the markings, forming my shoulder slope. So that is what I have. The next mark there is my neck depth, which is 3 inches from the start point. So I've marked it. So I will go ahead and use my ruler, identify where I'm going to curve my neckline, and go ahead and curve my neckline as it pleases me. Please take note of this. The purpose of just marking this is to make sure that you have a round neck. So that is what I'm trying to achieve here. So I'm going to round it up, as you can see. When you are drafting, ensure that you do the right thing. Don't rush over it. Take your time and make sure everything is rounded, especially the neckline. Don't make it too sharp, don't make it too shallow, and don't make it too deep. Now moving to the chest line, I'm going to put my chest measurement. So my chest divided by 4, that's a quarter of my chest, is what I'm going to find, plus 2 inches. So I have my chest to be 42 inches. Then 42 divided by 4 is equals to 10.5. Then the 10.5 plus 2 inches will now give me 12.5 inches. That's what I'm going to use for the chest measurement. I will explain why I added the 2 inches. So I'm going to mark the 12.5 inches on the chest line. Now the reason why I added the 2 inches is that I want the front panel to be far bigger than the back panel, and that 2 inches that I added, I'm going to subtract it from the back panel. And after marking the 12.5 inches, I added 1 inch seam allowance. So to the waistline, I'm going to do the same thing. I will divide a quarter of my waist plus 2 inches. So my waist circumference is 38, then quarter of it is 9.5, then plus 2 is giving me 11.5. So I'm going to mark my 11.5 on the waist line. Remember, in all my measurements, I'm adding 2 inches each. The 2 inches, I will subtract them from the back panel because I want my front panel to be bigger than the back panel. So that's what I have on my waist. Then I added my 1 inch seam allowance. On the hips line, I'm going to repeat the same thing. At this point, I realized that I did not put the hips line. I had to insert the hips line. As I said, my hips point is 24 inches, so I'm basically going to mark it on 2 points. Then I draw the line to complete my line, the hips line that I omitted earlier. So I'm just going to use my straight ruler and connect the two markings to give me a straight line, and that is my hips point. So now I'm going to input my hips measurement on the hips line. So I will follow the same procedure as I said earlier. My hips measurement is 44 inches, so quarter of it is 11 inches. So 11 plus 2 inches is 13 inches. So I'm going to mark the 13 inches on my hips line. Then I'll go ahead and add 1 inch seam allowance on it, just as I did in the previous measurement. So whatsoever I have on the hips point, that's the same thing I'm going to mark on the full length. That means my full length is the same as my hips point, and I'll go ahead and connect with a straight ruler down to my hemming allowance, since the markings are the same. So coming up to the waistline, from the hips to the waistline, I'm going to use my hips curve ruler. Note how I'm placing the ruler. The coffee point is on the hips line, while I extend the leg of the ruler to my waistline to create a hips curve. This curve is always very important. If you look at the picture very well, you realize that the outfit is really snatched at the waist region. So to create that snatchness, you really need to use your curves to make sure that everything blends well. So I've connected the chest measurement to the waist measurement, and I am ensuring that I don't have any sharp points, especially at the waist measurement. So I blend everything together. It makes it look so beautiful and smooth. So after that, I'm moving over to the armhole. I'm going to create my armhole. So I will locate the midpoint of the armhole. There are two methods, but I'm using this method. If you want to know the second method, just let me hear your question in the comment section. So I locate the midpoint of it. Then at the midpoint, I'll go out by 1.25. I am marking 1.25 inwardly. Then I use my ruler, the slightly curved part of it, and connect it to the midpoint. You may use a straight ruler in that part too, but I always love working with my full curving ruler, especially on my arm hole. Then I mark my initial quarter of my chest measurement, then place the ruler in such a way that everything curves to that initial chest measurement that I had. That's 10.5 inches. So that is how I create my armhole. This is different from the way I create my armhole on a suit, on my regular suit. Remember, this is just a safari suit that looks more like a senator. So here is how it looks like. I hope you're understanding how I am, where I'm really heading to now. If you don't understand, just watch the video again. Then to create my overlap where I want everything to stop, if you look at the picture very well, you'll notice that it is at the midpoint of the shoulder. So from the neckline to the other end of the shoulder, I marked the midpoint, then I added half of an inch to it. Then what I had as I measured was 6 inches, and I am transferring that 6 inches to the down part to form a straight line from the middle of the shoulder. Remember, the middle of the shoulder from the neckline. So I'm going to draw out the 6 inches from the top part of the clothes to the down part of it. At this point, I have created my overlap. Should I say the extension that I added to my outfit? So I'm basically going to trim off that side to make it clear where my overlap is at. So don't forget, you can choose to open it up while drafting it. Thereafter, you fold it over, but I decided to do this in my own case. There are so many ways you can do your thing. So I'm basically cutting it, trimming it off. So that's how it's going to be. And this is my overlap on the other side of it. So now on the waistline, I'll go down by 2 inches to form my pocket. Some people do fix their pockets on the exact waistline, but I usually go down by 2 inches. Thereby, it gives me the vibe. Then I'll create my welt pocket. This is just going to be an ordinary welt pocket, not the regular suit welt pocket. So this is just going to be normal welt pocket. So I mark the width of my welt pocket. I decided to use 5.5 inches. And if you look at the picture very well, you notice that the overlap did not cover the pockets. So I want mine to be also clear. It should not cover. That's why I'm taking 5.5 inches, and I made sure that I left like half of an inch from the side seam before I marked my pocket. So that is what I have. After inserting my welt pocket, I'm going to cut the front panel off. So as I'm cutting, I realized I did not add 0.5 inches on the shoulder line. That's the joining allowance on the shoulder. So I indicated it so as to remember to add it on the fabric while drafting the fabric. So the next thing now is to draft the back panel. All you need to do is just to continue the way your lines were. Make sure that the space of your pattern is going to be enough for your back panel. So I'm just basically extending those lines, as you can see, so as to draft my back panel. To start with, I draw my 1-inch line straight down to the hem. You may take half of an inch because that will just save as your seam allowance, but I just had to draw a start line at that side. So I'm going to start my drafting on the other angle. So we start from the neck measurement. Just the same neck width as you had from the front is what you are going to insert on the back. Mine was 2.5 inches, and that's what I inserted, starting from that line that I drew. The next thing is the shoulder line. The same shoulder line that I used for the front is what I marked, 8 inches plus half of an inch for seam allowance, that is 8.5, and I marked it on 2 points the same way I did to the front. Then I drew my line. That is my shoulder line. Then I'll go ahead and slant that line downward by 1.75, just as I did at the front. Then I will slant it and connect it to my neck width. So that's my shoulder slope. Then I'll have to draw my neck, back neck, that is 1 inch down. Then I'll connect my neck cuff now. So remember that the back neck now is 2.5 by 1 inch, while the front was 2.5 by 3 inches. That is basically for the neck that I am working with. So for the back chest line, remember I told you I'm going to subtract 2 inches from 1/4 of my chest measurement, and that's what I did, and I marked it right there. That's the same thing that I did on the waist. I subtracted 2 inches on the waist, the same thing with the hips. And for the back waist, I had to snatch the waist at the back, center back of the waist point. So I added the 0.5 inches that I'm going to snatch the waist, and that is what I did. I marked 0.5 inches, then I created a form of a dart at the center back, as we usually do on a suit, on a blazer. So that is what I'm trying to create there. That's a little snatchy look at the back, center back of the clothes. That is what I did. Then I went ahead and marked the 1/4 of my hips minus 2 inches, Then I added my seam allowance of 1 inch. Remember, at the front my seam allowance was 1 inch, so the full length, the same thing with the hips. So I'll go ahead and connect those markings with straight ruler at first from the hips line down. Then I will use still that straight ruler, but I'm going to blend it in. If you wish, you can still use your curve ruler at the waist, but I did this so as to blend it in. For my armhole back, I went in by 1 inch, then I connected the curve just as I did in the front. Then I made sure that that curve hits on my chest line. So that is what I'm basically doing. You can still follow the same pattern. Remember, the back armhole should not be deep as that of the front. So that is what I have done. Then remember to add 0.5 inches around the back, center back, because you're still going to stitch it close. You will not cut it on fold. Instead, you will cut it piece by piece. I hope you understand the point. So it's time to cut. Now at this point you have to be very careful that what you drafted was okay, and at the same time remember to add your allowances. Like the shoulder, I did not add the allowance. You're going to add 0.5 inches on the shoulder slope. Then at the center back you also add 0.5 inches round, since you are going to stitch it together. So I'm going ahead to cut my armhole, and I'll cut my back panel. Thereafter I'll show you what I have. After cutting, let me show you how to go about bringing about that beautiful curve at the lower part. Mark ½ inch from that end, then using your curve ruler, blend it in towards the center front, just as you can see. That will bring about the beautiful down parts that you see. It was not too sharp, so try as much as possible to blend it in. Remember, these little things really matters, because that's what make the clothes professional. Thereafter, just cut it out, because this is really useless, and it will make the hem part of the outfit to look as you saw in the picture. When you're done, don't forget to mark where your chest pocket is going to fall. That's the chest line. So on the chest line, you go to the armhole line, then come in by 2 inches. Sometimes it may require you come in by 1.5. Then from the 2 inches, you now mark 4 inches, as you can see. After marking that 4 inches, that's going to be the width of your welt pocket. So you can extend it to wherever you want it to be. So this is what I have. At the end of the day, you will have a pattern like this. I hope you really enjoyed this video, and when you open it up, you place it like this on the fabric and cut. Please do well to subscribe to this channel, and if you want to follow up how I stitch this outfit, do well to check on the next video, because I'm going to release how I go ahead to stitch this outfit. So at this point, I have cut it all. You've seen all the allowances. I have added it. So do well to do so with yours. Thank you very much for staying tuned. Let's do it again in the next video, the stitching aspect of it. Bye bye for now.